Welcome back to McCarthy Performance. We have a set of AFR cylinder heads here that have seen a little mishap. So what we're going to do is we're going to knock out the iron because there's iron stuck into the deck. So we'll knock that out. There's a piece right there, chunk here. It's a valve seat. We'll get the valves out. And we'll look at the guides and make sure that the guide bosses aren't busted. The guide bosses are busted and the heads are cracked up into the guide bosses. I'm probably not going to repair these. They were sent to me. I will look them over. Other than some cosmetic stuff, missing two seats here. There's pretty big gouge here, but other than that, they're really not the worst I've fixed. But certainly not the easiest job either. So we'll get going on them. So what we're going to want to do is, at least this is how I do it, I'm going to take a sharp chisel and I'm going to knock most of the seat that blew up and shot around the engine. I'm going to knock a lot of that out. Obviously you can't weld on iron, and you know all these pock marks have we got to make sure that they're clean and free of iron. So there's a chunk right there. There's a chunk right there that's buried into the head. So we'll get them big chunks out, and we'll get the rest of the seat out that's underneath that valve when I take that valve out. So what happened was the valve went sideways, guillotined the seat, and then probably snapped the guide off. Obviously, the guide got sheared and put a bunch of crap all over the place. Looks like some of the seat might have got caught up underneath the exhaust side and bent that. So we'll make it say open up, say you know. See if we can get these valves out. So there's part of the valve. And we'll get this other one here. That one's out. We're just knocking the back side. Okay, the guide is definitely bent. So what we're going to do is I'm going to tap it as far forward as lightly as I can until it stops. I'm not hitting it hard, I'm just tapping it. Okay, then I'm going to take the cutoff wheel, I'm going to cut the stem off here. Then I'm going to bevel it back. So we're going to cut this stem off right about here. We're going to bevel it so we don't destroy the guide, although the guide is shot. But anyways, I'm going to do it anyhow because Okay, we're going to deburr this a little bit. The guide is damaged, but it's going to let it come out of the guide easier so we don't have to fight with it. So we're going to probably cut through the spring. I thought the exhaust was sheared. It's not. It's got a hell of a dog leg in it. I'm not even going to try to compress it. I'm just going to cut the spring. The retainers are pretty much all hammered up. This one's junk anyways. So we'll do that. So I've cut the spring, taken some pressure off of it. I'm going to try to compress it a little bit and see if we can get the rest of it off. It should go easier. The spring's broke in a couple places on these, so that's why I decided to cut across it. So like I said, the springs are busted in a couple places. I cut it here, it's busted down here. So now we'll cut the valve like the other one. We want to be very careful that we don't cut into the head, obviously. But, you know, if we nicked it anywhere or it was, you know, something that we could weld, we'd weld it. But obviously we don't want to nick it in the first place. But yeah, like I said, I didn't think she was going to come out the other way. So that's, the rest of the spring should come off without a problem. She's looking better already. Let's start taking the springs off of them, and as far as saving any of this valve train, I don't even think I'd reuse the retainers, actually. I'm very hesitant to. But we'll take all that stuff off. You never want to force a valve out of a guide. You never want to force a valve out of a guide. A lot of times the top of the valve can be hammered. If you force it through the guide, you'll destroy the guide. So if you're going to reuse the valve again, you can use a file or you can use a stone. This particular valve, I don't think I want to use it again, so we're going to grind it around the top of the stem with a grinder. It's mushroomed over. We want to get rid of that hammering. Center washers jamming, these two holding them in place. See if I can tap it out of there. Yeah, come out easy. Grab onto it. And, okay, we're finishing up taking this head apart. The one that isn't damaged is bad. Gonna probably wash them, but this video is gonna be pretty much just a short little video fighting with head cold. I mentioned on this that the guides were cut. The guides weren't cut. I meant to say that I was thinking that both of the valve stems were sheared. This one was sheared. This one was bent. I've never seen a valve bent that bad and not break. So that's what I meant. I'm fighting a head cold today. I'm going to keep this video short. So I'm going to take this one apart. And we're we'll probably look them over a little bit more. Probably get the rest of the valve guide, or the valve seat, excuse me, out of the other head that came from this head here, and we'll look at that. So I'm going to take these springs off. I'll get the springs off of this head, and we'll get back to it really quick. So that's as far as this video will go on this. I'm going to write the customer an estimate, decide if he wants to repair them. The price of these heads, I probably would believe that he'd want them repaired. This is something you might have seen me use, might have not seen it really close up. But this is a pair of pliers I made for pulling off the tin-coated, or tin-cladded, I should say, rubber-coated, Viton-coated valve seals. It's just a 1/2 inch nut. You can see that I just welded onto a pair of pliers and rounded it off, and it works all right, you know. There's other things, there's tools you can actually buy for that, but this is just an old pair of pliers I had, and, you know, it didn't take long to make it, and it works relatively all right. So we'll get these off, and then we'll look at the heads a little bit better. Just take them off with my old spring compressor here. I've got to make sure that I'm on it. Give her a little tap. So as I was taking these heads apart, I was noticing a few things. Now, this is a disclaimer. You know, this is my opinion on this. I did not put the heads together. I did not assemble this engine. This is just me taking things apart and noticing what may have started this, may have not. Hard to say at this point, but there's one thing I will comment on is I absolutely do not care for these. And they're steel stamped locators. I prefer the machined ones. See how nice and crisp that is? That inner spring can't jump it. My opinion. The springs were jumping over these. The inner springs were. And the inner springs weren't none too happy with the retainer on top of it either, because you can see that it's got a hell of a groove cut into it. Now these have been only run for a limited amount of time. I believe I'll have to get back to the customer. That obviously didn't happen overnight, although titanium is not resilient to a tool steel spring, especially if it's sharp. Now this spring was the way you see it, is the way I found it. It's broken more than one spot. The inner is too. This spring's broke too. There's a bunch of broken springs. So obviously the valve train was not happy. You can see that spring was biting in pretty hard on that locator. And you can see it was none too happy. That inner spring was really chewing on this, and I've also seen, not on this one, but on a couple other ones where the actual inner spring was jumping over the top of that. So this is what's left of the intake valve seat. Found that all over the place, obviously in the head, all over the place, in this other side of the head here. That's pretty impressive. I've never seen one bent that sharp and not break. So there's some things going on with the valve train on this engine, and I most certainly can put the heads back together and make them usable. That's not even a problem at this point as I'm looking at them. But he's got valve train issues that have to be resolved. That's my opinion. So that's kind of what we got going on here. You know, I don't mind putting a set of heads together for a guy, but I don't want, obviously, and I'm sure he don't want this to happen again. So he's going to have to get with his engine assembler, builder, whatever, and decide what he's going to want to do. Let's see where the multi-layered gasket rivets were working on the heads. In on the video on the cylinder heads, we got them apart far enough that we can check them out, give the customer the news, and see if he wants me to go ahead and continue on them. Thank you for watching my videos. If you get any enjoyment out of them, please hit the like button. Please subscribe. So that's going to be it on these.